Hello there. Today we're going to talk about the facts, the challenges, and the opportunities that are in Spain for you to relocate here and get a job. So, this is something that is of interest to those who want to secure a position or a contract prior to making that big leap and relocating and getting everything else in order. So, I'm going to start with the facts about the Spanish market, and then I'll dive into the challenges, and then we'll talk about the opportunities. So, the facts about the Spanish market are that there's a high unemployment rate here, but that's it's always been like this. Um, Also, the Spanish market already has thriving candidate pool from the bilateral agreements that they have with Latin immigrant countries such as Venezuela, Colombia, Chile, Argentina. Some of these countries used to be colonies of Spain. So think of it as a commonwealth, okay? There's already bilateral agreements with those countries. So those candidates migrate to Spain just like you decide to cross the border into Canada for the day, And it's not really hard for them to obtain a residency permit. It goes very quickly. It's kind of like being fast tracked because when Spain has a shortage in any vertical, they really kind of open the faucet in certain professions and they just kind of, let those immigrants in, which is what puts a lot of pressure on local housing here. But that's another subject for another video. So the existing candidate pool is a challenge for you in Spain because those that are already kind of pre-approved by the Spanish government already speak Spanish and they know the culture, right? They know the work habits, the work ethics. They're comfortable with the Spanish workplaces. They kind of know the Spaniards much more so than you would. So that is an added layer, an added obstacle for you. The other obstacle is the other candidate pool from European citizens, right? Of the 27 member countries that are in the European Union. So somebody from Germany or Estonia or Poland who's come to Spain has already gotten a resident card. They already have a resident status. And it's a no-brainer for them to get because they're a member of the European Union. And once they are resident, then they can just apply to jobs as well. So, needless to say that those are really factors you have to take into consideration. Then Spain has its own list of shortage of professions that it publishes 4 times a year. It's updated 4 times a year and they are different according to the region that you might want to go to. So, for example, in Malaga, which is known as the Silicon Valley of Spain, their shortage list is going to be different than the shortage list of the Comunidad Valenciana, where Valencia is, where their shortage list is a lot to do with diesel mechanics for their cruise lines, hospitality, because of these cruise lines again, and in Asturias, in the north of Spain, they need a lot of crane operators, right? So if you're a crane operator, why would you come to Spain where you're going to take a 60% pay cut, right? So you have to factor all these things into account. So let's say you're in an unregulated profession where you don't need to wait for your university degree to have obtained an equivalency and you can go straight into applying for jobs because you're a non-regulated profession, such as development ops, programmer, language teaching, call center. You can just straight up apply for jobs. So you're in that position. Let's say you're going to have to find your own employer, your own job search, just like you would in the States, but taking into account all the things I mentioned earlier, right? So there are two options there. One, you're going to find an employer that's interested in your skill set, but they haven't done the process of the work permit application before. They've never sponsored a non-European citizen applicant before. So they don't know the process. So that means that you are going to have to get very comfortable with the steps. And you can do this without a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer, but you're going to have to get comfortable with the steps because if the employer has to do all the work and get educated, you might lose him along the way and he might not follow through with you until the end. And what I mean until the end is we don't know how long that takes, right? It could be 10 months, it could be 6 weeks if they have some kind of networking and connections with the local jurisdictions, and it can take up to a year or longer. So, of course, ideally, right, where I'm getting at is you want to find an employer who's done this before, right? Who's sponsored a work visa before. They know what it entails, and they know that they have to keep the position open for you because they really want you, and they have to keep the position open for you until X amount of months, right? So that employer is not going to throw in the towel and get discouraged, and he's still going to be ready and willing to hire you once that work permit is available for you to pick up at the Spanish embassy or consulate, wherever you are, if you're applying for the States, or if you're doing this from Spain, then it would be at a different jurisdiction. So this is your ideal scenario, is to find those employers. So I have put together with regards to the high tech sector, because I've been asked that frequently. So this is why I focused on that industry. So in the high tech sector, there are 10 companies that I know of that have done this process before. Some of these, not all of them, but a few of them also offer the add-on relocation package, meaning that in addition to sponsoring you for the work permit, they'll also, once you arrive, have something set up for you, whether that's temporary or permanent. Each sponsor is different, but some of them do have a relocation package. So before I let you go, I wanted to mention also that the job market in Spain, although it does have its challenges, right? There are some advantages to that. Once you'll have job security. There's no such thing in Spain or Portugal or France, for that matter, or Italy, where you come back for lunch and your things are in a box because you've just been laid off, right? That's immoral to do that. This is kind of an American specialty, that kind of at-will employment. So there's also no behavior that is very condescending, such as ghosting and fake job listings. So far, that hasn't happened yet. Now, some disadvantages are that you will take a significant pay cut. And I get asked this right off the bat when somebody reaches out to me, and I, do share some employers that I have worked with that do sponsor work visa for something. The first question I get from a Canadian or an American or an Australian, if it's their first time, right, in expatriation, working in another country, is, oh, but am I going to not take a 60% pay cut? Isn't the pay cut abysmal? So if you're relocating to Spain or France or wherever in Europe, and you're only looking at this from a transactional point of view, you're going to have to shift your mindset, or you're going to have to do some research. Because even if you take a 60% pay cut, your quality of life anywhere in Europe will be substantially higher than anywhere in the States. So, looking at this from a transactional mindset kind of means that you haven't really broaden your horizon and think at the positives that can bring you. So I really encourage you to do that prior to, reaching out and seeing what the next steps are once you have, set your sights on an employer and you have try to reach out to them on LinkedIn or some other manner, and you kind of need some help in seeing if the outreach is appropriate for a first cold outreach, so forth. That's what I'm referring to. So I encourage you to look at the next video that is outlined with the 10 high-tech companies in Spain that hire and that do sponsor the visa. So keep in mind, as I said, that each region has its own kind of specialties. Malaga in the south of Spain is known as the Silicon Valley. So if you're in high tech, that's where you should kind of focus. Keep in mind that outside of Spain, there's also the islands, the Canary Islands, right, on the west of Africa. That's part of Spain. And in the Mediterranean, you have all the Balearic Islands. You have Ibiza, Palma de Mallorca, and those are really opportunities for you to look at, and that usually Americans kind of forget about those. But with regards to hospitality positions, they're fantastic opportunities for you to get a sponsorship for a work permit, even though it might just be for something that is short term. It's a fantastic way then to have a stepping stone and go from there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention, and take a look at the next video so that you can gain a sense of what your opportunities are in Spain. Bye-bye. Talk soon.